Stay Home is like probably my favorite song we ever wrote. If I was going to play one song to a person who'd never heard American football, I think this is sort of the quintessential American football song from my perspective. It kind of has everything that we do as a band well.
This one might be the one I'm sort of most proud of. Like this one would be, I think Stay Home's the one that sort of stands the test of time best.
It's very Steve Reich inspired. The riffs are in a kind of a cyclical 7/4 pattern, and Mike and my's part kind of interlock together. I have like a sense memory of like sitting on the couch face to face, like working on these parts together and kind of trying to figure out how the changes would go and writing the B section, and then Mike coming up with that descending riff. And we were just like, oh my God, that's so cool.
Stay Home was a vivid memory of, me and Holmes having our own little band practice over a breakfast or whatever. Like, just what am I don't know. I don't really count again. I forget the numbers, but if he's in 8 and I'm in 7, we only loop every 7 times or 8 times, whatever it is. If you distill maybe the elements of what we were trying to do, some odd times, again, like the parts sort of morphing together instead of like quick abrupt changes.
I still don't really know what they're doing. 25 years later, the first notes, there's like this release of tension in the back of my head. I'm just sitting there, I'm waiting to do my thing, but that whatever time that initial figure is in, Mike plays it, Steve comes in, I sort of like retreat to the center of my head, and I'm gonna do this because I know like physically what I need to do next is like, it's the cymbal hits for a while, and then there's this whole sort of like unfolding of, all right, here's a certain tom figure. Now the tom figure builds. Now there's a full drummer thing. And now, now that Nate's in the bed, oh my God, here's my face. Now Nate added this gorgeous bass line. It's just like, oh yeah, this is my thing. I have never been bored listening or playing to that song, and there's just something about it that just feels like watching, I don't know, like cells divide or amoebas, whatever, do whatever amoebas do. Like there's something very like lifelike or something. It's like watching something grow very organically.
I was in a big stereo lab phase for, 5 years or something. So I'm into this like repetition. I think like you can play the same thing for 3 minutes, but it'll sound different 3 minutes later than it did when you started, even if it's the same exact thing. So, this is sort of relentless in a way that I'm proud of. It's like I said earlier about, I forget which song, where just the slightest little change like has like a lot of weight. So this is we'll do a whole cycle and Lamos is on a ride, and then we'll do another cycle, and all he does is add, a soft crash with it. And it's just like, whoa, like it's like nothing big, but like it just shifts how it feels. And then he'll start clamping his hi-hat loud for a third. It's like the smallest little shifts. I mean, in my mind, like it's almost like instead of vocals, like it something needs to happen. And I think everybody's default is like vocals or something, but I think we are at least trying to explore, like, maybe not. Maybe it's just like this one little shift and the whole ground moves.
Like my kids will come down and be like, oh, this song doesn't go anywhere. You're right, except that it's so deliberate and it takes its time, and you have to be in the headspace and mindset to want to go on that trip. And I can understand how folks, maybe they wouldn't want to, but man, I cannot. That's a trip I've never gotten tired of. Like there's just something about being along for the ride as it unfolds that I just feel like that song plays us on the right night. It has nothing to do with us as people. It's just like, oh, this is a really interesting energy zone in the universe, or however, whatever I want to say. And it's like, oh, we just get to plug in for a little while and let it do its thing. And man, the older I get and the more music I do, that's where I would like to spend my time, in that kind of zone of almost like flow state. And I just feel like that must be attraction for a lot of folks in a world of hectic like the one we have, to be able to plug into these places where you really do sort of feel like you're beyond yourself. It seems to me like that's an important thing to think about and seek out. And if you're lucky, you get to be part of it,
And even now, I love playing this song live, because it's one of the ones where you forget you're on stage performing in front of people. Like, you kind of get, the analog to sports would be like, I'm in the zone. I am in a flow state and can kind of just close your eyes and just feel the music. And that sounds corny, but it's true. Like, I think that's what we like about these long kind of meditative mantra parts. And then like the subtle movement over time.
God, I don't remember a damn thing about how we wrote it or what it meant to record it. I think maybe because it's so engaging for me every time. Like, it just, like, every single time I sit down to either listen or play to that song, it's like listening to it again. I'm a big fan of Miles Davis. I've said this in 10,000 interviews too. But there's this track called Peaceful off of a record called In a Silent Way. And it has that same sort of like organic, like it's just like watching life happen or something. And I feel like this is my chance to shoot for that feeling that I get from listening to that Miles record, but like, it's my band, and yeah. So I think my love of that song has erased any memory of how it actually came together.
Actually, in the reissue, there's a version of this where you can hear, there was originally a third part. There was like an extra part that was actually pretty cool, that for whatever reason we got rid of, but you can kind of see like how the songwriting evolves over time, and you come up with a bunch of ideas and you kind of whittle it down to like, what is the essence of this song? And it's super repetitive, but there's like very subtle movements happening, and it's kind of like loose structurally. Like, we're not necessarily counting like, how long does this part go before we change? It's more based on feel and like actually like signals. Like, Lamos will give us the look, okay, now we're going into the next part. So it was very loose in that sense. And when we recorded it, it was just like flubs and all. Like, this is definitely not a perfect performance, and none of these songs are played to click track. It's all just three guys in a room playing live. And you can hear like there's definitely like missed notes or not perfect like performances, because these parts are very intricate and like, every note is picked and it's easy to miss one. But I think that kind of adds to the overall feeling of like, there is a naivete of like 20-year-olds writing music, but being ambitious about it, like trying to like, what is the coolest thing we can do with our limited talent and resources, and just pushing at the boundaries of like, we're barely capable of playing this. And so that gives it a very, vital feeling of like the wheels could fall off at any moment, but it kind of just stays, the momentum just keeps it going.
It took me a long time to like consider myself a writer. I think I was just trying to write what the song felt, and what, again, like what I was only listening to, like The Cure and Red House Painters and the Sunday, like these bands, like they're singing like sort of sad, heavy shit. And so I just thought that's what music was. So I was more than willing to like transfer, the vague few lines I had written in a diary or whatever, into a song. So, there's not like a lot of turn of phrase or anything. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty plainly stated. At that time, like I didn't really know how to write songs. I just thought songs were happening. Like, oh, this is the song because it's what's coming out. Stay Home, I think we wrote. You know what I mean? Like, I think we put effort into like arranging it and correctly, and vocally, I planned it where things land and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I guess Stay Home, it's sort of represented the whole thing. And like I was saying, like I don't really listen to like fun music. I listen to music to get some sort of reaction. And so when I'm writing, I kind of want to invoke that same thing or evoke the same thing. So, but ending on a sort of like heavy, downer seems appropriate, or it seems worthwhile. What's the, have a great day? Like what's the alternative to ending is, a sort of heavy album like that?
That's life. It's so short. It's so physical. But that's life. It's so
It seems like the appropriate closing song on an album. Well, I know there's a closing song, but that's like an aside.